Yeah, hey, I have to raise it up. You don't have to open it. That over. Maybe good, good. Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody should be events with all the blessings. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Such a powerful, powerful evening of Yutas Kislev, the night of Kislev. One Yom Tov that continues for 2 days. The day of redemption, the day of liberation of our souls, the day in which the deepest essence of our being can be expressed. That's what Hasidus is here for, to open us up to the deepest, godliest depth of who we are at the core of our being. Hasidus and Mashiach, all one. Mashiach is the time when the greatest inner light, truth will be revealed. Everything will be in touch with its divine truth. Hasidus begins the rehearsal for us to be able to start living a godly existence. Tonight, we're here together to sit together. Hopefully, some inspiring thoughts and ideas will come as well. But more than anything, we have the power of the awesome tzaddikim that are here with us tonight. The Alter Rebbe is for sure here because we're celebrating the Alter Rebbe celebration. So the Alter Rebbe is here. He's with us. And all the other tzaddikim are here with us. It is a custom to always relate a Baal Shem Tov story on Motzei Shabbos. That custom is applicable even on Yutas Kislev, and actually probably more important on Yutas Kislev. This is a day we celebrate not only, it's a day that we celebrate and commemorate not only the ideas of Hasidus, but the conduct, the ways of Hasidus. The ways of Hasidism is to tell stories, particularly by Malav Amalek. The stories enter the heart. Hasidus is meant to penetrate the heart. Today I mentioned something interesting during the Kiddush, that it's 225 years since the Alter Rebbe's liberation. 225 spells the word Raka. Raka means soft. And it says that when we say L'chaim Alo Bracha, we're giving a bracha, we should have a lev raka, we should have a soft heart. So after 225 years of marinating in Chassidus, we hopefully don't have any more a stubborn heart, we have a soft heart, and all that godly light can enter. We have this godly heart, this soft heart, is because we've been embraced in a divine hug for the last 225 years. We've been embraced by the hug of pure, infinite love. What is Chassidus? It's the pure, infinite love of God. The root of the word Chassidus is chesed. Chesed is love. It's interesting how, particularly, Man Yisrael, we're dedicated to Chassidus in general, but the Yutet Kislev is connected to the first Chabad Rebbe. So Chabad was rooted in a town of Lubavitch. And Lubavitch, even though the Alter Rebbe himself didn't live there, he lived there when he was a little kid, but a little child. But then he didn't live there. He wasn't a Rebbe in Lubavitch. But his son, the middle Rebbe, went to Lubavitch. Lubavitch means love. So Chassidus is love. It's divine love. It's the love of our soul. It unplugs the love. It unplugs our essence. Powerful inner love of the soul. So it's interesting in the number 225, it occurred to me, thinking 225 is 200. 100 is a complete unit. What's 25? 25 is a quarter of a unit. So we have 2 and a quarter. And I'm thinking, what's 2 and a quarter? So halachically, 2 and a quarter are the walls of a sukkah. It's a minimal to keep a sukkah kosher. Is 2 and a quarter. Because in order to have a full sukkah is really 3 walls. But then comes the halachic technical things. And with halacha, you can really get very creative. And instead of having a 7 tefach wall, which is the minimum you need for a wall, we can have a wall with, you add 1 tefach, whatever, I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of it. You didn't come here tonight to learn halacha. But you add 1 tefach, which a tefach is a quarter of the 4 tefachim that you need. You need 7, but really 4 tefachim. A wall to create most of the wall, to create the love. So really, it's 2 tefachim and a tefach. In Chassidus, it said, the Alter Rebbe said, why is the sukkah 2 walls and a tefach? Because it says the Yaminoi Kapkeni, and Hashem's right hand embraces us. And when you extend an embrace with your hand, you have 2 full parts of the hand, from the shoulder to the elbow, from the elbow to the wrist. These are the 2 full walls of the sukkah. And the little tefach over here, that's the next. That's for the right hand hug. Now we are 225 years of being hugged by God. And this hug can translate into a soft hug. Because when we're feeling that, like we know on Sukkot as well, the reason why it's amazing. The reason why in Yom Kippur we say Al Chai, and we bang and bang on our heart. We bang on our heart. Why are we banging? Why are we beating up our heart? Not God to beat ourselves up. The point of clapping Al Chai is not to beat ourselves up. The reason we bang Al Chai is because on Sukkot, inside the hug of God, Hashem himself is going to come down in the form of the 4 species that we share. The reason we take 4 species, the Medrash tells us that every one of these species symbolize God. According to one Midrash, it symbolizes all the 4 different types of Jews. But according to one Midrash, every one of these species symbolize God. Hashem has 4 letters in his name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Hashem wants to touch us in the heart. He wants to hug us, and it should be heart to heart. We should feel his love. But in order to feel God's love, if we have a lot of gook on the heart, we can't feel the love. So the entire 10 days of tshuva are only to clear up the gook from the heart. We bang and bang and bang, so we clear a space. And once this space and this pure, sensitive heart, then Hashem can channel and kiss us in the heart. So the whole clearing of the heart is just to open up for that. So could you imagine now, for 225 years, we have the hug, the Yaminoi Chapkeni of Chassidus, of the holy light of the Baal Shem Tov, coming through the Alter Rebbe, which makes it so tangible, makes Hasidic teachings so relatable to our human condition. Hasidus is a divine revelation, not just a divine, the deepest, innermost of God, which is impossible to grasp, and yet through the teachings of Hasidus, it reaches into the human condition. It reaches all the way down, even into our animal consciousness, to the point that we can utterly transform ourselves and start living as a godly being in this world. And not to live as a human life, but to live as a divine being. There are people in this room who can testify how their lives have become literally completely flipped over, upside down, by listening and tuning into classes of hours of Hasidus, and then suddenly, wow. And it's almost like, for many people, and for me it was that way as well, it's not like you get new knowledge. It's almost like I've always known this, but I never knew how to express it. That's the idea. Because it's the innate inner core of a person's neshama that knows this. It's the heavenly knowledge. It just needs to be put into words. And that's what our rabbis have given us, the ability to translate it. So it's a minhag to relate a story from the Baal Shem Tov. So here's the story that was delivered to my WhatsApp tonight. I opened it up. Someone in Israel sent out every week a story of the Baal Shem Tov. If this was the story that was delivered, the first thing I read from Matzah Shabbos was I looked, I said, oh, the story of the Baal Shem Tov, this is the one delivered for tonight's event. So the Holy Baal Shem Tov, once before Pesach has a connection to Yudas Kislev, because they're both times of liberation. Min Mitzrayim, Gealtanu, Mibeis Avadim, Pidisan. It's a Pidia, and what's Yudas Kislev? Pada B'Shalem Nafshi, the redemption of the Alter Rebbe's soul from prison. It's the same idea. Anyways, it was on Erev Pesach, and the Baal Shem Tov was doing B'dikas Chametz, the night before Pesach. And during his B'dikas Chametz, he was very, 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 you could look, he saw a very, very deep concern on his face. And he looked very, very worried. And usually the Baal Shem Tov, when he's doing a mitzvah, the joy was indescribable. B'dikas Chametz is not such an easy mitzvah. It takes work and so on, but for people whose lives are pure godly, doing a mitzvah is the greatest. This is like pure thrill and ecstasy. So the Baal Shem Tov was doing B'dikas Chametz, yeah, you can see on him that he was deeply worried. Something was bothering him, and no one, of course, was going to ask him. And after the B'dikas Chametz, the Baal Shem Tov turned to the students, a million of them, 10 of them, and told them, I want you tonight to do Tikkun Chatzais. And during the Tikkun Chatzais, you should have certain kavanas, certain meditations. You can see that the Baal Shem Tov was working on trying to nullify something. The next morning, again by chakras, they again determined, actually the beginning of the story is that earlier in the day, before the B'dikas Chametz, when the Baal Shem Tov was going to take Mayim Shalom, he was going to draw the water to make matzahs, tzaddikim, and many people have the minhag, to make all their matzahs on Erev Pesach, the time that they were offered the Karban Pesach, that's the time to bake matzahs. So the day before, you have to draw the water. You're not allowed to use in matzah, you can't use water and then you draw that day. It has to be sitting overnight. So the Baal Shem Tov, when he was going to draw the water, he was doing it v'sham t'mayim v'sasan. So incredible joy. But by the B'dikas Chametz, that's when the darkness kind of kicked in. And the Baal Shem Tov was very, very heavy. And then by Shabbos, you can see as well that he was very bothered. And he was telling his students they should have kavanas, which we're supposed to have mystical kavanas that you have Rosh Hashanah by davening, which are the kavanas, and what are the mystical, kabbalistic intentions, permutations, and so on by davening, is that you want to sweeten judgments. Rosh Hashanah is a time of judgment. You want to sweeten the judgment. Anyways, the students had there, and they were very concerned. They didn't know what's going on. After davening, the Baal Shem Tov sat with the students, and the Baal Shem Tov said Torah. And during the Torah, he was saying like this, that a Yid has to have Amunah and Bitachon. That was what he was talking about. Amunah, faith, and Bitachon. Bitachon means trust. The Jew has to have Amunah and Bitachon and trust in. And then the Baal Shem Tov explained what trust means. Trust means that literally you're in a situation and you cannot see any way naturally in which things are going to turn out well. There's nothing in the world. There isn't even one exit over here. There's no way you'll ever can get out of this situation. It's not like, because if you have a way to get out, then whatever. That's not the ultimate of bitachon. The bitachon is literally, there's nothing there to grab onto. And yet, you're certain, you feel confident that Hashem will help. So the Baal Shem Tov said, and the sign that the person has bitachon is if he is besimcha, if he is joy. And then the Baal Shem Tov kind of, was pushing joy. He kind of was bringing himself. Then they came to, and that's why they were making the masses. The Baal Shem Tov was in a very, very joyous state. But then it came later, Mincha time, Erev Pesach, came to David Mincha, and again the Baal Shem Tov looks very, very, like he's very pained. And so started the Seder. Those who would eat join the Holy Baal Shem Tov for the Seder were used to that the Baal Shem Tov would give some insights into the Haggadah, which were obviously pearls of wisdom, incredible godly ideas. But this night, the Baal Shem Tov was just saying the Haggadah with extreme, intense concentration. Only was saying the words, and he was like deep, deep in thought. So we went through the entire Haggadah. And then as they got close to the end of the Haggadah, suddenly the Baal Shem Tov starts laughing. And he laughs, and he laughs, and he's very happy. And he suddenly says, L'chaim, L'chaim. He says, Mazel Tov. He says, L'chaim and Mazel Tov. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemai. Blessed is God and blessed is his holy name, that he has chosen his Torah, he has chosen Moshe, his servant, and he has chosen Yisrael, Amo, Yisrael, his people. The Baal Shem Tov said these words. Even Amo, even his simple people, they're on the level of Yisrael. They're on the level of even the simple people. And they are even better than Yisraelic Baal Shem Tov. This is what he said. They even can outdo Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, referring to himself. That they even simple people. And he related to them the following story. He said there was a decree that there was on a certain village, on a certain town, in which that town was supposed, that night, there was a, because of whatever, there was a horrible decree. And that night, there was supposed to be, Pesach by night, there was supposed to be a pogrom, and God forbid, a massacre. And a lot of Yidden would have been killed in that community. And the Baal Shem Tov was doing whatever he can spiritually to nullify. And that's why he said, you can see on me that I was so bothered. And no matter what I did, and I even employed my students, I tried to get you to join me, but to no avail. Nothing that I was able to do was able to annul this terrible decree. And he said, in that town there lived a simple Yid with his wife, and they don't have any children, and they were making the Seder. Now, this is a person who used to come to the Baal Shem Tov. He was a very, very simple Jew, didn't know anything. So he was sitting tonight at his Seder with his wife, and there were no children, so it was just him and her. And during the Seder, he started explaining to her, telling to her about the Haggadah. And he took out a medrash sentence. They used to have one in Yiddish then. A Tzena Arena, which used to have all the stories. And he was describing, reading the midrash of what it was in Egypt and how it was terrible and how they were taking all the Jewish babies, boys, throwing them into the Nile River, murdering all these children. The wife is sitting and she's listening. And she says, I don't get this. It's amazing. This woman says, I don't get this. We don't have children. God Almighty would bless us with a child. We wouldn't treat our child. We wouldn't do something like we would be such cruel to our children. That's the shalom to allow our children. So I don't understand how Hashem treated the Jewish people like this. That he allowed the Jewish babies to throw into the Nile. This person was like taken aback by the blasphemous words of his wife. So he tells her, no, whatever Hashem does, it's good, and Hashem must have his reasons, whatever. And he continues reading the story, and they continue reading the Haggadah, and about every couple of minutes, she raises her voice again in protest, and she's arguing with her husband. She keeps on claiming that the Eibishter is not right, and God has no right that even if your child sins, you don't throw him into the Nile. This is what she kept on saying. She kept on saying, and he was defending God. But finally, they were already after 4 cups, and finally he conceded to her. and he said, you know what? You're absolutely right. And the Eibishter is absolutely wrong. This is not the way to behave. And they were a little tipsy. And they both of them stood up and they started dancing. And the Baal Shem Tov said that as soon as the husband acknowledged that his wife was right, it created when all husbands should always acknowledge, it created such joy in heaven. It nullified the entire it nullified the entire decree. And it became listic, and there was no program, and everything was good. This story is very important for us this year because the Eibishter wants to hear from us. And this is something very unique. This is something when we talk about Hasidus. Is before the Baal Shem Tov days, it was the husband's world. Really, you could not in any way speak that way because you really was blessed. And it truly was. You couldn't talk. Jew was always just accept, everything is good. Hasidus opens up inside us the soul, and the soul is literally divine. So we do have a say. And Hashem, of course, always has higher reasons for doing what he wants. But we, as the godly presence of God in this world, also have a say. And Hashem changes things based on our demands. So when we've been through what we've been through this year, we have to say, and we do say, based on the Hasidic teachings and the way we were taught, that Hashem, come on, it's enough. We've been doing this for 2,000 years. We never agreed it was right, and now you got to stop. And instead, you should take us back, bring us home, and give us all that you promised us, all the brachas and all the blessings, and we should experience a complete pada b'shalom nafshi. I was so sure that when I would that's why I went to open my phone. I was so sure I'm going to open my phone and find out that on Yutet's Kislev, all the hostages came on. So we have to give the Eibishter another 24 hours. It's that, because it's Yutet and Chav Kislev. You better have them all back. That's Hashem. And then God has to have us all in the Holy Land with Mashiach at the Beis Hamikdash. Let's really say it with strength and with sincerity, and we can get it done. Hi. 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 Is beginning to work, everyone. Beginning to loosen up. Hi. 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 Take the moment right now to thank those who helped make tonight's special Farbrengen happen. First of all, Ari Kaufman and his family were the sponsors for tonight. His family, all blessings and bracha. Also participation by the Mansuri family, they should bench them. All that they need and all that they want. And a big yashikayach to Boros, with Laura, for Marshak, and his mom, Bridget, Chaim. Blessings to you, big brothers. A couple of months ago, on Chayel, we had a little special event, big event, special event. Chayel was the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. And over there we gave people an honor to be partners with us. People, we auctioned off very, very special bottles of wine. And people were able to take a month. So the month of Kislev, which means sponsor the month at Maya, all the activities. So even though they're not here because they went away for shopping, the Goldner family, Ari Goldner and Dovi Goldner and Eli Sharp, the three Goldner boys together sponsor the month of Kislev. So Hashem should bench them, which includes this Farbrengen. Hashem should bench them with abundant blessings. In that sense, I will present to you something special we have going on in the middle table. For those who want to go home with big blessings tonight, you're all going home with big blessings, but an extra opportunity, something really special. There's some very, very, very beautiful bottles of mashka. Chassidim, the way of Chassidim is, if you have a good bottle of mashka in your house, it forces you to make up a brain. You're not going to sit and drink it yourself when you're shikar or something. If you have a good bottle, you make up a brain. So what we do in mine, it's a Chassidic center, is on Yutas Kislev. There are 9 bottles over there. Every single bottle was dedicated to one of the special 9 rabbis, starting with the Baal Shem Tov, the Mezritcha Maggid, whose yahrzeit was today, successor of the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe, the Middle Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Rashab, previous Chabad Rebbe, Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, and the Lubavitch Rebbe. Here are 9 bottles. Each one, we didn't put those labels on yet. Each one of those we're going to have an emblem of one of the Rabbeim on it. It's very special. And if you want to and what it really is just an opportunity for you to help Maya do our holy work. And you can put it in. And then what that means is like this. The schutz is every time we mention from this Yutes Kislev till next year Yutes Kislev, every single time we mention the Baal Shem Tov, so the one who gets the Baal Shem Tov bottle, it's their schutz. All the teachings, including over here and whatever goes out, thousands of views of YouTube and all over, whatever goes out across the world from this place about the Baal Shem Tov, the one who has that bottle, the bottle with that blessing. You can have it the whole year long and say l'chaim whenever you need a big Yeshua, and turn to Baal Shem Tov and say, I need a Yeshua now. The schutz of your name being mentioned and your teachings being taught at my Yisrael. And whenever the Maggid is the Maggid's bottle, whenever the Maggid is mentioned the entire year. So each of the Rebbes, the Alter Rebbe, for instance, we learn hundreds of hours. We learn the Alter Rebbe's Maimarim here in this shul, and this was all broadcast. And how many times we mentioned the Alter Rebbe? That bottle, wow! The Rebbe teaches Maimarim every Shabbos morning. So there's like all these are so powerful. So in order to each bottle you can do it. The auction is just during the Farbrengen. So basically, you can put in a bid for those bottles, and then you get that bottle at the end of the night. You keep it with you. There are some you see over there are QR codes, so you can go onto the bidding site and choose the Rebbe that you want to deeply connect. Someone can outbid you, but then we'll see what you're working at towards the end of the evening. So l'chaim u'bracha. Now we're celebrating on Yutes Kislev. We celebrate Pada v'Shalom Nafshi. We celebrate the holy Padiyah. The Padiyah of the Pada, the redemption of the Alter Rebbe. And what really got me really excited was this year Rosh Hashanah by night, 3 months ago, Rosh Hashanah by night, I was singing, I don't know if it was the first night Rosh Hashanah or the second night Rosh Hashanah, I was singing in my home, in my house, the song Pada B'Shalom Nafshi. And I said, the reason I'm singing Pada B'Shalom is because this year is the year of Pada. Because it's Tafshin Pei Dalet, 5784, Pei Dalet is Pada. This is the year of Pada. First 2 letters is Pada. And therefore, I was feeling that this year's Yutes Kislev is an extra powerful time. Yutes Kislev is an extra potent, powerful time, because Yutes Kislev is the energy of Pada. Pada. So this is a year of Pei Dalet. So as the year started to unfold, we realized something really interesting, which came about through obviously the events that occurred. The sad event that started on Simchas Torah. Now, obviously, it can't be the end of the story. The story, just because it happened on Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeres, it must mean that we haven't seen the story yet. Because this must end with a spectacular ending. It didn't start on Tisha B'Av. It didn't start in the 9 days. It started in the day of the most love between God and Israel. So we don't know the story yet. And again, we're allowed to complain. And as we spoke earlier from the Baal Shem Tov. But on the other hand, we also have to have the Amunah that the Gamtul Latova that we are going to see over here is like unfathomable. Now, what really is interesting this year is that what is occupying our mind most, what is occupying our mind, the mind of the consciousness of the Jewish people in the past couple of months, what has been occupying the consciousness of the Jewish people more than anything else is the state of Jewish captives, Jews that are in hostage, and the praying that we pray that they should come out of captivity. When do you remember a time that you were thinking so much about redemption, the release of captives from captivity? When did this happen? This year, the year of Takshin Pei Dalet, Pada. Now, when did the actual release of captives start? We saw that there was a piece of a miracle happened to us already. Jews that were in captivity came home. Not enough. Nowhere close. I think there's still 137, they say, that are. And today we bench them at this Farbrengen. We each reach out to them spiritually. We hold their hands with love. We tell them and whisper in their ears they are coming home. The Eivishter is going to bring them home. Now, but there were, I don't know, about 60, 70 that did come home. And when did that happen? Right at the peak of Pada energy. In Chabad, there are 2 days associated with Pada B'Shalom. One is the 10th day of Kislev, the day of the liberation of the Middle Rebbe. It was a week and a half ago. Thursday, a week and a half ago. And the next one was today, the Alter Rebbe's redemption. Both these Rebbe's sat in jail. They both came out of prison when they were saying the pasuk Pada B'Shalom. So what happens? Every single day between these days, starting the day after the Middle Rebbe's Yud, just on Yud Aleph, it was the first day we were all standing and watching hostages, Jewish captives being released. We saw Pada B'Shalom Nafshi materializing in the most material sense. People that were in a hell, in a prison, in a horrific prison. These people were released, and they came out. Yud Aleph Kislev, Yud Beis Kislev, Yud Dalet Kislev, Tetzvav Kislev. All the days between the 2 Pada B'Shaloms. And all the Jewish people were connected so deeply to this Padiyah. And what is Hashem showing us? That the Pada B'Shalom is so powerful. This year, the energy of Pada, which Pada means to release, to bring forth, which really means our own souls. Our own souls are also blocked in captivity. When we don't pay attention to the soul and all we live is just Chas v'Shalom with materialistic ideas in our mind, and we're not giving expression. And we're not giving expression to our godly soul, but instead are living very, very, very earthy lives. Our godly soul is buried under the heap of our material, of a more earthy self, of what we call in Hasidus Nefesh Bahamis, the ego or whatnot. Sorry, I gotta click this on, or those people will go on. Okay, now it's good. So on Friday there was a picture that was making its way around. A little girl, her name is Emily, and she was holding the sign which said, "Bring Emily home." And she Baruch Hashem. And I'm thinking about that picture, where we are holding our own sign and saying, "Bring me home. Bring my soul home." Oh, my soul is stuck somewhere. We have to realize that we need to come out of our own captivity, of our own constriction. And what is the constriction? The constriction is that we look at ourselves as small little schmeckles, small little human beings, small being nothing, schmeigers, not realizing that in truth who we really are, we're godly beings, we're godly souls inhabiting a physical body, here to express God in this world, here to express the infinite. And we're not allowing that consciousness to come forth. That's the block. So on this day of Yutas Kislev, there is such a powerful infusion, a divine infusion of liberation. The doors, that all the blockages, that keep our inner core hidden and concealed, suppressed. Today is that day that the powerful energy of Pada can be activated on a very personal level to allow our souls out, to come forth and to flood our consciousness. And how does that happen? How does it happen? Start sitting together here tonight. That's when we draw down the spiritual energy of Pada B'Shal and Nafshi. But it becomes fully activated when we make a firm resolve to start learning the holy teachings of Chassidus and studying them day by day. What it does is that it opens up our soul. It releases our soul from its concealment and allows us to live the godly self that we truly are. It brings that higher consciousness. It enables us to see the world so differently. It enables us to perceive reality through the lens of a divine soul, or else we have no clue. We see things very through our human mind. I think this opens up a divine understanding, a godly perception. And that itself comes in stages. First, we experience the most external level of our soul. See, living the life of a Jew, you're already living a life of a soul. Because you're doing godly things. You're doing a mitzvah. That's not a human act. That's a godly act. So anytime we put on tefillin, you're saying the holy words of davening, you're already living a godly life. But it's only on the most external level of consciousness, which means it's only your level of nefesh, the most external level of soul. There's so much deeper to who we really are, that we can actually, a higher level is to be able to start living that your emotions, that our emotions, we start feeling a godly feelings instead of living only with our earthly feelings. We feel godly, we feel excitement towards Hashem, towards holiness. How do we get that excitement? We get the excitement by revealing the higher dimension of our soul, which is called Ruach, spirit. And when that opens up in our heart, and we have holy passions, holy desires, and then when we fill our mind and we get a godly mind, that's called neshama. And then we can go higher and reveal even what's called the encompassing higher transcendental elements of our soul, where we experience a certain holy madness. Wow. When you experience holy madness, Hasidus says that's really where it's at. Because then you're experiencing energies that are beyond your head, beyond your understanding. An excitement to God that is limitless. And you're going driven. It's such a drive, it's like a mad drive. And to live on that level is spectacular. But there's deeper than all of that called Yechidah. And Yechidah is already Mashiach consciousness, Geula consciousness. Yechidah means to embrace your essence. To live not from the expressions of the soul, but to allow the essence of the soul itself, who we really, really are. We're not just a being excited about God, we are actually God himself. Everything, the Baal Shem Tov says every neshama is a piece of God. That means that every soul is really an expression of God in this world. And when we open ourselves up to that place, we can't be harmed by anything. Nothing can faze us. We're so powerful, so strong. We're unified with all of existence and all of reality. Every person and every object or every entity we meet, we immediately tune into the godly aspect of it. It responds to us from its godly place. We live in a world of miracles as well. Unbelievable to live in this Mashiach state. Now, Hasidus comes in the world and starts to open up these higher possibilities. But ultimately, the Rebbe told us 30 years ago that we have now reached a level that every single person can open themselves up to what's called Geula consciousness, to start living from the essence of their soul, something that was not possible before this time, but now it is, because we're ready to enter into Mashiach's reality. So therefore, the deepest core essence of who we are and what we are is now coming to the surface. So I'd like to, for a moment, to try to draw a little parallel between the macro and the micro, our own individual lives, and the need, not the need, but the zechus and the opportunity that we have right now to open ourselves up not just to higher divine realities, really tear open ourselves or remove the blockages and reveal literally the essence of our neshama. I was thinking an interesting thing, if I could share with you, it just occurred to me, literally Matzah Shabbos, as we were leaving the day of the 19th of Kislev, and we were going into the 20th of Kislev, Chav Kislev, which tonight is the 20th. And we know the story. Why do we celebrate 2 days? It's not like in every Yom Tov is really one day. We celebrate 2 days because Sveika de Yom, it's up. That's because Eretz Yisrael, outside of Eretz Yisrael, but we are living, the Yudas Kislev happened in Golas. So the whole idea of Sveika de Yom doesn't exist over here. So why do we have 2 days? So we know the story. The story is the Alter Rebbe was in prison for 53 days because of whatever slander and accusation. Then he was released. He was released on the 19th. But when he went home and they dropped him off, whoever was responsible to drop him off at the address, which in Petersburg, where they had told him to drop off the Alter Rebbe. So it was a chassid who lived there. The chassid lived upstairs. Downstairs, they lived on what was once called a mesnagin. A mesnagin means people who were still confused and not understanding that Hasidus is the futuristic life. And they were seeing new types of behaviors and they were getting very worried for traditional Judaism. Some of them really meant it sincerely and some of them were just whatever. In any case, they were the ones who, so the slander came from this mesnagin. When the Alter Rebbe was released, the Hasidim were waiting for him an hour. He was supposed to be dropped at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They don't know where he is. They're getting worried. They have a change of heart. Those who were supposed to release him retract. Finally, someone said they should check downstairs. They checked downstairs, and lo and behold, they knocked on the wrong door. They delivered the Alter Rebbe, not to the house of the Chassid, but the house of the Mesnagin downstairs. So they came inside. This Mesnagin was a real anti, and he said, Alter Rebbe has been, sitting in prison already for 53 days. He's very weak, and so forth. And this person is standing over him and yelling. And the words when they caught him was he was saying, it's not good for you anymore. Now you need capital. He's yelling because one of the things Chassidim changed, they started down in Sfard because of Kabbalistic reasons. So in the Ashkenaz Siddur, by Keter, you say Naritzcha. Chabad and Nusach Sfard, all Chassidim, you say Keter. So he's yelling at them. The old ways aren't good. You need new things. And he's berating the Alter Rebbe. So they right away managed to get the Rebbe out of there. And then the Alter Rebbe said that he was there. He said the 3 hours, forgot. It wasn't 2 hours, 3 hours. He said the 3 hours that he was in the house of the Mesnagin, who was speaking against the Baal Shem Tov, hurt him more deeply than the 53 days he was with him. He was very, very deeply pained. So therefore, and that was already by the time he came out, was Chav Kislev. So that's why we celebrate Chav Kislev. So tonight it occurred to me an amazing thing. That we know that Yudas Kislev is compared to a bris milah. It's a circumcision. Because we have, as mentioned earlier, there are 2 days of we celebrate Pada B'Shal and Nash. One is the 10th. One is the 10th of Kislev, which is the middle Rebbe came out, and one is the 19th. 8 days in between. So the 8th day you have. So what says in Chassid is that the birth of a Chassid is on the 10th of Kislev. And the bris milah of a chassid, circumcision that we have to go through every year, to peel away what's flocking. But we know in bris, the moil is here. The moil, you can get details from it. This is really gory details. I'm not going to go into it, to the technical aspects of it. But there's 2 parts to a bris. There's removing the outer skin, and then there's removing a thin membrane. And a Jewish bris, according to the way we Jews do it, actually. The Zohar says that the Arabs have a chelik in Eretz Yisrael because they do a bris. But they only do the milah, not the priya. The priya is the extra removal which allows the full bris milah to happen. So I was thinking that the 2 days, Yudas Kislev and Chav Kislev, Yudas Kislev is the removing of the outer goop. And Chav Kislev is dealing with the finer klipa. It's already not dealing with the outside world blocking it. It's dealing with Jewish people around you that are jaded, people that tell you, why are you getting excited? Or within ourselves, the klipa inside of us that's kind of blocking and not allowing the deepest inner core of our neshama to really, the pure godliness of our soul to really reveal itself. This is Mila and Kriya. And for that reason, the biggest celebration is Chag, because until you haven't revealed the bris, until you haven't, bris means covenant, bond with God. The ultimate deepest bond with God that you have, you're still in exile. Even if it's only a thin block, but there's still something there blocking. So the real Pada B'Shalom that we're seeking is a really deep Pada B'Shalom. We can't stop just by experiencing godly emotions. We have to reveal our divineness. I'd like to just do one little connection to the concept, because as it applies today, in which we see it, it is so important for us to embrace our essence, who we truly are, who we really are, and not to pretend we're someone else. And we can see this from the situation in Israel, in our holy land in Eretz Yisrael. According to the realms of nature, we find ourselves in a serious pickle. The situation is very harsh and very difficult. We have the Palestinians, Hamas and Machshema, that they claim ownership to the land of it. They claim they want the land of it. They want to cause to drive us out of it. That's their wish. And they've been actively working to actualize that for the last how many years? And they gained a lot of world sympathy. And a lot of the world, including the UN and sometimes the European Union and all the other organizations and so on, and now the college campuses, we're talking about millions and millions of sympathizers, which boggles our mind, especially now when we see such evil. And yet there are people still sympathizing and people still calling and still see the Palestinians around. But in any case, we have Israel over there, small little country, our Jewish country, our Jewish land. And the question is, how do we get to the situation? You see, for a while, there was this thought and this idea that we can live side by side with the Palestinians. We can make some kind of a compromise. We're going to have part of the land of Eretz Yisrael, part of it, God forbid, would be allowed for the Palestinians to live in and have their self-governance. And we kind of convince ourselves as follows: that if we're going to appease Palestinians, give them land and give them a chance to start living, governing themselves, and a chance for prosperity, once they're going to have a chance for prosperity and they're going to have help and assistance, so then they are going to build themselves up, and then they're going to stop with their what do they call it, jihad, because that's only because they're so miserable and they don't have a normal life. But if we give them already what they want, and we'll allow them, and that was a trial which obviously failed terribly. It started with various different concessions that Israel made in the past, but it reached a horrific point 2 times in Oslo, and then after that, when Israel pulled out during the days of Arik Sharon, pulled out of Gaza, we made the trial, gave them kind of an ability to go live self-governed, and this was a trial. Obviously, what happened now, October 7th, kind of not that old. Because we basically realized there's no partner of peace. Even the people that are on the most left, the people on the most sympathetic, the biggest peace lovers in the world, who are willing to drive themselves with just pure blindness, to believe that one day we're going to live peace and peace with the Palestinians. Basically, it became crystal clear it's never going to happen. Because we have terrorists all over and around our neighbors, and they're out to kill us. And what are we going to do? Do we have to go out? We have to go after them. But what have they done? They're stupid. So this whole thing was, in a sense, the most evil brilliance, but it was a brilliance. They dug themselves in so much amongst the civilian civilization. The evil, they couldn't care less, as we know, about their own citizens. So Israel goes in to do and tries to do a precision surgery, but inevitably, many people, innocent or not innocent, but people that are not out there with a gun, are being killed. And all of this is being publicized on social media and put in front of them. onto the face of thousands and thousands and millions of people in the world, and it creates sympathy. And as a result of that, world opinion and all this pressure goes in Israel, and Israel can't take the fact that we're considered murderers. So what do we do? But let's say, let's try to figure out what's going to be the end of this. Let's say Israel is going to have, the persistence, because they know that they can't continue living with these monsters at their doorstep. They need to eradicate. Let's say they're going to finish the job. No, they have to. So they're going to go in there and literally eradicate Hamas. Let's say they're going to eradicate Hamas. Then what's going to happen? So afterwards, now what's going to be? What's going to be? No Hamas. What's going to be? What are you going to do now with? What are you going to do with Gaza? What are you going to do in this area? So what you have to do? So there are those who are trying to suggest, okay, we're going to rebuild the Palestinian lands and have the Palestinians have their land, but with people who are willing to live side by side. So Israel, anybody with a little bit of seichel knows that they're never going to have, that the jihadists are, it's really built into the entire culture. And there's nothing to do. There's no way. So now you basically are faced with a dilemma. So what are you going to do with the world? How are you going to present yourself? So till now, Israel was using their legitimacy. What was the legitimacy that we were using, that we have a legitimacy to this land? What was our legitimate route to the land? Because of the Balfour Declarations and because of the UN's resolution in which 1948 was established. And that gave the Jewish people, whatever the reasons that the UN had during that time, whether it was killed because of the Holocaust, whether it was because some of them felt that if they put the Jews together with the Arabs are going to finish off what the Nazis couldn't do. Whatever the reasoning was, so now we have to make the argument. What's the argument? So if we're going to make the argument that it's based on the UN, it's such a ridiculous, weak argument, because if your whole basis is the UN deciding that this is the land that the Jews should live on, how many violations of UN, how many Security Council resolutions are there against Israel? It's like there's no country that has more violations, more strikes than Israel has. So you're going to build your whole legitimacy on the UN thing, or when everything, because of what, but they basically have you X'd out as the most, as occupiers and so on and so forth. It's not going to do too far. To use the second argument that Israel uses, obviously, based on its our ancestral land. It's ancestral land. Jews have been here for thousands of years, and we have artifacts going back to the King Solomon's days, and so on and so forth. If you use the argument of ancestral land, also not to have a powerful argument. It's a good argument, not the best argument, because what are we going to do? Because Sennacherib came and mixed the whole world up. Took the people, the Phoenicians who were living here, and he moved them over there. And people there. Did everybody have now in the whole world? Can people go to Paris and say there were old tribes who were descendants of people who lived here, and therefore all the how do they call people who live in Paris? Parisians? Yeah, all of them leave, or Londoners. Obviously, because you once lived in thousands of people, you weren't here. Now, it's not true that there was no Palestinian people, fine, but that argument that you once here thousands of years ago, not necessarily a powerful argument to be able to have the world accept and that all opposition should go away to Israel being the land of the Jewish people. There's only one thing that we could do, which would work. The rest of us arguing this argument and telling you this is what we have to do. What do we have to do? Jewish people have to stand up and say the truth. Say that. The land is ours because God promised the land to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And he gave us this land as an eternal inheritance. And therefore, it's our land from the river to the sea. Every single inch of that land belongs to the Jewish people forever. And there isn't an inch that's negotiable. Because it's not even ours, it's God's, that He's giving it to us. And because of that, it's our gift, eternal gift. And in that sense, when we stand up in that way, and that's it, and we say it with a strength, like an unbelievable strength, we are Jewish, and we are God's people in this world. God gave us a land, and this is our land, there's nothing to talk about. And therefore, what's going to be with all those who have been living in the land of Israel? They have a choice. They accept that this is a Jewish land, and they'll be treated very nicely, like they're citizens. They can go to college, and go to school, and all this taken care of. But they put down their arms and their guns and jihadists and all of that, and it's totally eradicated. Or they can pick themselves up and leave. Or if they want to fight, they can fight, but they're going to be destroyed. There's no other option. You realize Israel is now pushed to the corner. The other option is to pretend is not to make the statement. And then where are we going to be? Then the pressure continues again. Let's say we, God forbid, go ahead and give Gaza to some other Palestinian group and kind of give them the money to build again. In 5-10 years, God forbid, you're in the same situation, and we will do HaKadosh again. I don't say the word HaKadosh, but this is basically you're coming around and around and around. How long are you going to play this ridiculous game? So the only thing you can do is actually say the truth. Say it with boldness. And when you say that, what happens? What happens in truth? There says that when you reveal the essence, this is where it goes. This is where it matches up in the internal world. When you reveal your essential truth, then it actually changes your opponent on the level of essence. It completely flips the opponent over, which is a very, very intense idea, which needs a lot of explanation. But in this sense, really, it's as follows. Islam, Christianity, which is most of the West and the East, most of the world's civilization, believe in the Torah. Because if the Torah is not true, then none of their stuff is true. And they know that. So if you stand up and say your truth, this is the order, and say it with strength, they have to acknowledge it. They have to, or else they can close up completely. Some, of course, atheists and so on and so forth. But this works for most of humanity. But it must be said with absolute strength and absolute conviction. That till now we were playing games. It has nothing to do with the UN. It has nothing to do with anything. This is ours because it's ours, and we are Jews and we are God's people. The problem with that statement is, if Netanyahu, let's say, gets up and makes such a statement, he has to ask himself the question, if that's the case, if I'm Jewish and I'm claiming land, where's my kippah? Where's my bayis? Where's my tzitzis? Where's my tefillin? Where's your Shabbos? Where's your mikveh? Where's your kashrut? If you're God's people, so live that way. You see, so now becomes the contradiction. I can't live with I feel like a hypocrite. I claim I'm Jewish, this is my. Now, Jews are Jews. But if you are Jewish and you are connected to God, and God gave you this land, and we know clearly the very same Torah you're quoting the first Rashi. There's a whole bunch of other Rashis over there. Continue reading. What's happening with the rest of it? So obviously this is going to require a complete overhaul. But the truth is, if you think about it, there is absolutely no other resolution going forward. There's nothing. Israel has its back to the wall. There's nothing else you can do because any other Baba has no strength. Because you're forced, you're going to have the only legitimate reason to clean house and claim the entire land of Israel for the Jewish people will only be when you actually say the truth and say the ends. The same concept applies. I can't control Netanyahu, I can't control the Israeli government, but I can deal with myself. There's a question I have of my body. My body, my physical body, my 248 limbs, 365 blood vessels, this physical body, the question is, whose territory is this? I'm going to deal with it to you. For 50 years, I have not declared yet, I'm standing you today, in front of you, I'm confessing, I have not made the declaration yet that this body is godly territory. And no one else has a piece of this body. I have not done that. Because there's a little part of my body that might still be Palestinian owned. Meaning someone else is taking claim other than my divine truth. And this is the question we all ask ourselves. Who am I? Not what are my feelings, what are my emotions, what are my ideas. That's all the external parts of the soul. The question goes in much more fundamental freshman. Who is living in this body? The truth of who we really are at this core is that we are divine. I always go saying divine beings But according to where the Rebbe is taking us, we are nothing other than God Himself. Just like Eretz Yisrael. Why do Jews have to live in Eretz Yisrael? Because Jews are an extension of God in this world. Israel is God's world. It's God's land. So that applies to every single person. The Jewish people are called Kitir Atam Li Eretz Hafetz. God says, you are my desired land. Your body is my land. So how come I'm dodging all this time? And we all do this. We negotiate. We all have an animal soul. We have a godly soul. And we go into negotiations. We exchange prisoners. We make deals. I'm going to go ahead and do so and so. But you know what? I'm going to do a mitzvah and give tzedakah while I do so and so. So please, if I can live my animalistic urge, which is absolutely not what God wants, but because I'm also giving tzedakah, I'm going to bring forgiveness on it. So we negotiate ridiculous negotiations. And as long as we're willing to live in that realm of confusion and we haven't claimed our identity, that's golus, that's exile. The Rebbe says, just into and realizing is the external mirrors the internal. Since now we find that Israel has no choice but to say the absolute truth, this means that I have no choice in my life. And I can't play monkey business anymore. I have to make that declaration. And I pray to God that over the next 24 hours, by this Farbrengen, I can bring myself to the point where I can make that declaration out of me, that I am a divine being here, and other than that, nothing else to my life other than doing Hashem's will. Doesn't mean you don't eat. Doesn't mean you don't eat pasta. It's a mitzvah to eat pasta. And God would be in your body right now. He would be eating pasta. And He is in your body, and you're eating pasta. Because God likes pasta on Motzei Shabbos. That's the way it is. No one ever said it. I promise. Since when we live, how if Hashem comes down in a body, how would God live? If God comes down, how would He live? I'll tell you exactly how He would live. He would wake up, if He's in the body, He sleeps. And He wakes up, and the first thing, He washes nails by His bed. That's what God does. That's what He tells us to do so. That means a godly living. First He says, Moidani. Then He washes negligence. Then you go and say the brachas and you do whatever you need to do. The godly life. You live what Shulchan Aruch says. You live the life that Torah tells you to live. That's God's way of living. The sages tell us that God does all these things. God puts on filling. But God does it in the abstract, outside the world. But when God wants to move into this world, where is He moving in? How is He moving in? Through each and every one of us. And therefore we have to live our lives according, consistent. And when we live our godly life, we're not losing anything. We're actually living a million times, a billion, ain't so richer, deeper, healthier. And then we can live for eternity because there's no reason for death anymore. Once we click, once we embrace our true identity. And that's what the Bishal in Nashi really is. Today is a day that we have to be able to make that move. Chassidus helps us recognize, understand, appreciate the deeper truth of who we are, what we are. We can live that way. Even just talking about it, hopefully, will give those in Eretz Yisrael the strength that they need in order to make their declaration. And let's hope that we shouldn't even, we don't have to wait until they do it, because Hashem should just reveal Mashiach Tzidkenu right now and take over. And then everybody, of course, is automatically going to click in with this higher consciousness. May we see that now. The traditional niggin called Father B'Shalom. Hi. We don't know the reason. Huh? Five, important information. The singing, everybody please concentrate. It's in the deepest moment tonight. You sing a niggun that is an introduction to the very holy niggun called Daled Brothers. Familiar with it, it's sung by Chuppahs. We only sing it in very holy days, and composed by the Rabbi Reuven, and whose celebration is today. So we really have the Reuven's energy and the soul on the highest level when we sing this thing. This is the intro to that niggun. Here we go. Don't forget, there's a boatload of blessings in the middle over there. Turning it into Elokus, into Maimonim. See this. Chaim Lubavitch. Talking about the blood of the Shalom that we've seen physically with our eyes here. What has been troubling me as we're watching it, and I think it's been troubling all of us, is that we saw a pada, but it didn't seem like it was pada b'shalom. The time was the right time between Yud Kislev and Yud Teslas. It was pada. It was literally a pediyah, but it wasn't shalom. Why? Because in Chassidus it explains that shalom, being redeemed in peace, means you don't have to wrestle. You don't have to continue fighting with your enemy. The enemy is either decimated and gone, destroyed completely, or the enemy is actually transformed, becomes an ally. That's the idea of shalom. When the Alter Rebbe was redeemed, there was no more opposition continuing. The Tsarist government didn't oppose him anymore afterwards. They ceased to be his enemy. Actually, for the next many years, the very Tsarist government was in many ways supportive of they admired the Alter Rebbe because his father Napoleon, he was considered a very high, a very noble citizen. There was no more animosity, there was no more hatred, there was no more opposition. Eventually, we saw that the Misnagdim, those who opposed it from the Jewish people, they themselves became transformed to Hasidim. This was the idea of Pada B'Shalom. In this case, it came in this case, it came in an exchange. Not only did it come with an exchange of things that were not good. I mean, obviously, Hashem, everything is good, but on a level that we can't see the good, ceasefire was not a good thing for Israel to do, strategically, militarily. The release of terrible terrorists that have been in Israeli prisons, definitely something that is a terrible thing. Very fact was the very, very evil people that were setting the conditions for this pada, for this redemption. So it had a very bittersweet taste. It was sweet to see people coming out of prison, coming out of captivity, but it was painful to watch, and the fact that there are still captives that are still there. So we are waiting for the full Shalom to reveal itself. Hopefully, without a question, the Shalom will kick in. What could we do to help to make that it shouldn't just be a pada, but it should become the Shalom? So in Chassidus it explains that when we battle with our own captors, we keep our soul in captivity. There is a certain way in which we win battles, but it's a bloody battle. And that is when we are engaging in our spiritual endeavor, in our service of God, and our service of Hashem, but only from the lower levels of our soul. Lower levels of our soul, we use our mind, we use our intelligence to appreciate godliness. And as a result of that, to get excited about godliness, create holy emotions. Every holy emotion we have to counter unholy emotion. And so we fight, we battle. Yesterday I heard a beautiful teaching, beautiful story. It's known that the Mittler, used to teach Chassidus on hand. His discourses would last sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. Sometimes even crazy, the amount. And his Chassidim were like so immersed in Chassidic teachings. That's all they were occupied with. So much so that the Mittler Rebbe said that he would like that his Chassidim should, when they meet in the street corner, they should speak about Atik and Arich. These are the highest levels of the divine. So not all Hasidim were able to speak about Atik and Arich. There were simple people as well. So what would the simple people talk about? Those who didn't speak about Atik and Arich. Simple Hasidim of the Middle East. I heard yesterday from Rabbi Reuven, he said that simple Eden when they were talking, they would say, thanks boss, you know what? Ich habe gegeben my klap. That means I beat my animals. I gave him my zest. Hat mir zurückgegeben, my klap. He gave me back. He sucked me back. I'm wishing and hoping that I'm the one who's going to give the last klap. So the idea is that the Hasidim were very aware of this ongoing battle. The holier side inside of us makes a stand. We hopefully live a couple of moments as a godly being in this world. But then the other side, the lower side, and the lower aspects of our existence kind of overtake us for a moment or two. It happens back and forth. And that's the rest. In that sense, the Mittler Rebbe says you can win a battle, but you haven't won the war. Because tomorrow you're back to square one. And the Mittler Rebbe said, in order to be able to achieve a higher victory, you've got to unleash the madness of your soul. We discussed it. You've got to open up your soul to levels that are higher than your intelligence. To release and introduce into your consciousness the natural embedded love of God that's there in every neshama, a desire, a boundless desire. You know, when the Alter Rebbe was in prison, he was inspected. Doctors came to see him. One was a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist came and spent some time with the Alter Rebbe. And he did a psychoanalysis of the Alter Rebbe. When he was done, he said about him, he checked him out and he sees that he has within him an unsatiable desire. He's burning for something, and it's so intense. It's for something that he can never have, and he's burning. And it was used as kind of a try to be used against the Alter Rebbe. Part of the accusations was that he wants to be king of the Jewish people. There was this whole Hasidism, and it's one of the things they were trying to say. The Hasidic masters want to be emperors. They want to become kind of a leader of the Jewish people and to be proclaim themselves king. They were, in a sense, ultimately, Hasidism does lead to Mashiach. It was there in the blood of the Alter Rebbe. You also saw that when the Alter Rebbe met Rabbi Baruch of Mezhouch, who was the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, but he was opposition of the Alter Rebbe. Because he didn't accept the Alter Rebbe's style and the Hasidus of teaching so much. So Rabbi Baruch and the Alter Rebbe were big machlokas, a big dispute. And one time they were arguing, and a chassid of the Alter Rebbe was there, wanted to defend him. He wanted to speak up, he had something to say, and he wanted to speak up. He must have been a chassid of a very high caliber. And the Alter Rebbe motioned to him to be quiet. And he was quiet. And the Alter Rebbe said, "You think this is just a plain argument between two people?" He said, "This is a continuation of a dispute between King Saul and King David. David and Shaul. Alter Rebbe is the beginning of the restoration of Malchus Beis David." So they were actually saying, in other words, you find a lot of times that the Gentile knows the truth. So he was shmecking that the Alter Rebbe has it. The Alter Rebbe's desire was really desire for Ein Sof. He was yearning for God with an infinite, unsatiable desire. They said it was for kingship. That's what he wants. But the idea is that also this is like this crazy desire, the level of Chayav Neshama that is Ein Sof. And therefore, when we tap that, we love God, not with the human love, but with the divine love. Yes, the story of the holy sanctity of Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev. This story I heard from Yosef Yitzchak Ben Bracha many years ago. Should have a Shalema. Let's see. So Rabbi Yitzchak was once spent the Shabbaton with me, and when he told the story, I can't tell the story because he said the story is so juicy and so full of life. Story is again with Rabbi Reuven measure, but I'm going to do a very big kitzur. That the Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev was known to be a very fiery Rebbe, a very fiery. His love to God would always spill over. Chabad Rebbe would control a lot inside. He didn't want to see so much on the outside. Alter Rebbe would go into explosive raptures of love. But generally, Chabad Rebbe was very contained. Berditchev was very, very revealed. His energies were like uncontainable. So one time, Rabbi Baruch of Mezhouch, he met Rabbi Baruch, and he said to Rabbi Baruch, "I would love to spend Shabbos with you. You're the grandson of Baal Shem Tov, the holy tzaddik Rabbi Baruch. I want to come to you for Shabbos." And Rabbi Baruch said, "No way, Jose, you're not coming." Anyways, back and forth, he begged it. He said, "No." He said, "Why can't I come? What kind of business is this? Why? I want to spend Shabbos with you." And he said, "Because I know your ways. You're going to come, and you're going to stop making locusts. You're going to stop misbehaving. And by me, I like when my tish, my right, everything is royal and everybody's well behaved. And I know you're going to come and splash around over here, and I'm not interested in it." So the Rabbi Yitzchak promised him that he was going to control himself. Anyways, the way the story is that basically Rabbi Yitzchak was turning blue in the face because he was trying to hold back. Friday night when he was down, and he would usually be able to release that energy. But now he couldn't. He had his nails into the tail. He's bleeding. He was like holding it. And he had blood vessels bursting when he was saying Kegavno the Inun Misyach Kamiela, when he was saying Raza the Shabbos. This is Mashiach Yom HaShabbat. Then came the Tish, and he started saying Shalom Aleichem. But usually the intensity of feeling Shabbos, feeling of godliness. And Rabbi Baruch sat literally like an angel of God, dressed in his white kaftan, when they wore white badges. The Alter Rebbe also used to dress in white. The Talmidim Baal Shem Tov, the Talmidim Mamagid, all wore white clothing. And can't wait to see that Mashiach come. But in any case, all dressed in big day in the white, and the Alter Rebbe and the Levi and the Levi standing on the side. And he's managing, literally, he's biting his lips, his eyes are bulging, he's controlling himself, and he made a promise, and he's going to keep his promise. Finally, they sat down and they washed, and they started serving fish, and those who know my repetitions, and those who come from Polish backgrounds, the fish is served together with a cookie gel. It's called fish yoch. Yoch is an old-time way just to make fish. It's a gel. It comes from cooking the fish. Anyway, so the man who was serving the fish, the waiter, would ask everybody, give him a piece of fish, and he asked. So he bent over to every person and said, "Do you like yoch?" So he came to Rabbi Yitzchak of Berditchev, and he said, He asked him, do you sleep yoch? Lieb means, do you love fish sauce? And Rabbi Yitzchak looks up at him like, and he says, yoch lieb, like fish sauce I like, yoch lieb, God! And he jumped up. And when he jumped up, he hit the whole tray of fish. Fish tray would look like this, tumbled over, and the fish sauce, the whole bowl, sprinkled like on a fan. Like it literally went over the entire room. Most of it went right on top of Rabbi Reuven. And Rabbi Reuven used to wear a talus. The big Rabbi Reuven used to wear talus to the fish. He wore a talus and his white cup and his beard, everything was dripping in fish sauce. And Rabbi Yitzchak took one slug. Baruch never took off, but the Baruch always wore that stained talus. The whole thing was to bring it out. You wanted to push him to the point where it was going to burst. So we're talking about this level of love. So these are they lived with this love constantly because their souls were unblocked. So they experienced this. This was their natural day-to-day living. For us, see, this explains it's possible. We can have, if we keep ourselves pure, holy, and we work hard to daven every day. So on Shabbos, a person can merit for this higher soul to reveal itself. It's called Neshama Yisera. When that level of soul reveals itself, that's called Neshama Yisera. So when you have such a revelation of soul, the animal soul goes into shock. We all have an animal soul. But the animal soul, when it experiences such intense godly love, it feels that it doesn't have anything to counter it. It can't hit back. Because how can you love? What are you going to love with that kind of? How can you love? You can get excited about a Western burger with what is it? They put the egg on top. You can get yourself excited about chicken wings, but how much? Like, to what degree? Can you match that? The animal soul can't come up. So therefore, usually, if a person experiences this intense godliness, there's nothing that the animal soul is subdued. However, it's not transformed. It's just overwhelmed by the intensity of God. That's what we were talking about earlier. When you're not only revealing your transcendental level of your love, but you're digging deeper than the love of your soul or the desire of your soul. You're actually tapping the substance of the soul itself, the divine essence of the soul. And that is even more elusive, more private, more concealed, more hidden in the subconscious because it's essence. Essence is not revealed. But yet it says that it's possible for a person to unplug the essence. And when you unplug that essence, over there you don't desire God. Over there you are one with Him. Not your desire, you are Him. Such a depth, a type of. It says that a Jew, if he's faced with a moment, God forbid, where they want to, God forbid, tear him away from his Jewishness. Jews, all their lives, we have a history of martyrdom, of Jews who gave their lives up. People that were, even if they didn't live much religious lives, but when there was a certain point where they wanted to tear a Jew away from his Jewishness, the Jew was willing to give his life up. The Alter Rebbe explains in Chassidus, that's because at that moment, you feel this level of soul opens up in the person. You feel you can't separate from God. And no, you want to be connected, you cannot not be connected. It becomes like impossible. This is who I am, and I can never deny that truth about myself. Even if it means giving up my physical. And that's a very powerful moment, and it only opens up when a person is put to such a test. Generally, we don't have access to such a level of soul. In the Sefer Shari Tshuva that we're learning on Thursday night, we're finding out now, Hitler said that there are people, tzaddikim, who live on this level of yechida every day, on this level of consciousness. What that means is that your very substance of life is not physicality, is divinity. The divine soul becomes your life, it becomes your physical existence. And then you're not, every pleasure, the only pleasure you possibly can have is divine pleasure. The pleasure of a mitzvah, the pleasure of godliness. That becomes your pleasure, desire, and so on and so forth. He says, who are the people who reach this level to the highest and most strongest level? Were the 10 martyrs that we learn about, we read about them on Yom Kippur. The big tzaddikim who died, Rabbi Akiva, who they combed his flesh with metal combs, the savage Romans. Rabbi Akiva, it says over there, was saying Echad as he was dying. He said, Echad, Shema Yisrael, hero of Israel said Echad. And Rabbi Akiva prolonged the Echad. He was holding the Echad as long as he can, which means Rabbi Akiva was preventing himself from dying. He was keeping on while he was being racked. His flesh was being racked. Rabbi Akiva was 120 years old. His body was being racked, literally shredded to pieces. And Rabbi Akiva did not want to die. He continued to hold on to life. Why? The Mittler Rebbe says the craziest thing. This is an answer to your Mushka. I got to read it this week because Mushka asked me this question right after Yom Kippur. Mushka had a little too much time on her hands in Yom Kippur. And she was reading the English of the Machzor. There's a certain part that's not meant for the faint-hearted. Mushka was very angry after Yom Kippur. I'm sorry, Mushka. I'm revealing it. She called me. I'm telling you, I didn't know if I was ever going to get her back to shul again. She was angry at God. She felt that how can this be? This is brutal. This is not right. Tzaddikim to be such savage, to die in such savage. The angels cry out to God. What's happening? And they say, this is the Torah. This is the Torah. This is the reward. The Mittler Rebbe says the 10 Harugei Malchus did not feel any pain at all. Not because a miracle happened. They didn't feel any pain. He says because they so identified, only their full identity became their godly soul. That means that their entire pleasure was sucked up only in their soul. And that means, and therefore their pleasure and pain was only related to spirituality. And therefore, since dying at that moment was a mitzvah, because there is a mitzvah to give your life for the sanctification of God's name. So to Rabbi Akiva, and there was a mitzvah that Rabbi Akiva said he was waiting all his life to do. So Rabbi Akiva was in ecstasy and in bliss while he was experiencing, while we would think the body was in the most horrific pain. Rabbi Akiva so identified only with the mitzvah. The mitzvah consumed him so deeply, there was no space in him for anything else. So technically the body hurts, but he couldn't even feel it because his body was so lost in his soul, in his spiritual experience. And that was his experience. So obviously these are very big tzaddikim, and it's not possible for regular people to even think. And on that level, that's called the Mittler Rebbe says Pada B'Shalom. Because once you identify with your godly soul as who you are, then the animal soul has literally no more, not only doesn't have an opposition. Once you uncover the godly particle, then the animal soul also has a godly particle. Once you tap already the divine level, then everything is godly, then the animal soul flips as well. It joins the neshama. It's called a complete transformation. Obviously, big tzaddikim can reach that. Till 30 years ago, only big tzaddikim could reach that. 30 years ago, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that the dynamics of the world has changed. Because this level of consciousness is the consciousness that we will all be living in after Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, we will live our soul. The power of impurity will go away from the world. The fake self, the external self, the superficial self will dissolve. Our truest inner self will emerge completely into our consciousness. And we're going to be living on that level of consciousness, everybody. And the headquarters of that consciousness is Mashiach himself. Mashiach, Tzidkenu, is the root. He is the collective Yechidah, the essence of the Jewish soul. At its deepest point, that's Mashiach. And that's why there aren't tzaddikim that can reach that level, because they uncover their individual Mashiach in their soul. Everybody has a spark of Mashiach. But collectively, the Jewish people were not in that place. The Rebbe says, however, that from 1990, 1991, the Rebbe says, Mashiach is already present in the world. He's already here in the world and already revealed in the world. Now, that's something phenomenal. Just like we all know that by the giving of the Torah, in the year on the sixth day of Sivan, in the year 2448 from creation, when we stood at Sinai, and God gave us the Torah, new realities opened up for us that were not possible a day before. A day before, it was not possible to do a mitzvah in the physical world. You cannot do an action that's going to merge the physical object with Hashem. Physicality could not express God. It couldn't. There was a block that God set up, and it was a barrier. Try it as hard as you want, you could not break that barrier. Even though you're a big tzaddik. The biggest tzaddikim was before the giving of the Torah. They couldn't do it because it was not yet, that dimension has not opened up in existence. So the same idea is when the Rebbe says that until now you could not live your Yechidah. Really it was only very few tzaddikim. The Alter Rebbe had a chassid. Reb Shlomo of Kalin once came to visit the Alter Rebbe. And he came with a chassid who wore 2 tefillins on his head. The Gemara says, "Makom yesh b'roish." There's space on the head to put 2 tefillins. Now we can't even really, in essence, carry 1 tefillin. Tefillin is so holy and so godly. We have no choice. We're not going to put on tefillin, so we have to put it on. But to really, really put tefillin on your head, let alone to think that you can wear 2 tefillins in 1 shot on the head. There's actually someone who comes to shul. And he wears the. I know physically you can do it, but spiritually. So the Shlomo Karlina said about this chassid of his, take a look, he wears 2 tefillins on his head. And Shlomo Karlina said, see, he merits to see Aliyah. I like the Rebbe's those days. They were competing on they were showing their products. So the Alter Rebbe says, and he turns, and one of the Alter Rebbe's chassidim, his name was Benjamin Klevsker, was davening Shmona Esrei. In the end of the room, he was davening. And he was holding it and saying, Sim Shalom. And the Alter Rebbe said, Kukafeh, look at him. He said, he's now saying Sim Shalom in the end of Shmona Esrei. And in him is shining his Yechidah of Nefesh. His deepest essence of his soul is now revealed in his consciousness. When Ed light, and he's laughing from your chassid with his Gili Eliyahu. In other words, Eliyahu was an angel, so Eliyahu revealed himself to you. But what it means, your essence of your soul is infinitely higher than an angel. What does it mean? Your essence of your own neshama much bigger than life to the prophet. Your own, the essence, it's Mashiach. In today's days, the block that blocks our Yechidah from manifesting is not here anymore. Why? Because now is the time already, because we're living. Since Mashiach is already present in the world, today's days we can all live the life of our Yechidah Shem. And we can all have a true P'niyah B'Shalom on the highest level. Because we can live such a deep level of identity. And the Rebbe gives examples, and he's explaining what that means to wake up in the morning, the first second, before you even say Moda Ani. There's a second when you're waking up, that's your essence. And how you can kind of snap a picture of that, catch that reality, and have that moment spread out on the entire day. Don't leave go of that consciousness, of that state of coming, just recognizing, just as the moment you wake up, before you can even understand or see or express anything, know that a divine, that God is coming into the world through my neshama right now. And that's my truth. Thinking about it, I didn't try this, but the Rebbe suggests we should probably try it. To wake up in the morning before we even say Moedani and allow ourselves to catch it, thinking just the idea that the Eibishter himself, my neshama is one with God, is now making its way into my body, into my consciousness, into my reality. Waking up meaning revealing itself. It's revealing itself right now in me, as me, in this world. So what is my day going to be like? If I am nothing, if I am God coming into the world through me. So that means such holiness. That means that all day long I should be living in a pure, godly life. And there's no room for anything else now. What we're going to patch to it? We're going to be busy now with what you're eggs are going to be like. If you're going to add onions to your omelet, or you're not going to, it becomes ridiculous. I'm talking about your concern and your whole being becomes. That's what the Rebbe Shah means when he says the letter that your ethem and your responses will be only to the Eberstein to chase away everything else. The cool thing is that whether we're ready for it or not, any moment this is going to snap into all of us. It's going to click by all of us because Mashiach is going to be visible, and then it's going to happen. But it's a little cooler if we can actually catch on to it before it happens. Because now this is opener. It's open for us. When we manifest that and actualize that, and we start living on this level of existence, then we do Pada B'Shalom. And hopefully that creates the Pada, that increases the Pada B'Shalom energy. That there shouldn't only be the Pada that we saw happening over the last 2 weeks, but it should also be Pada B'Shalom. That the Klippa should literally melt away, and in some impossible way, all the darkness that's in the world should transform. All the college campuses should sing, instead of from the river to the sea, they should sing Yechia B'Bein. Alles on Go in the flag. Alles on Tanzli. Alles on Shire. The Ebbets Avaya Le'olam. I'm not talking about Hamas, they don't get into that. But these poor kids that are marching to Beis. So by them, there should be in the Salachos, literally, all of them. We should see pure get the Eber should help. Don't shine sein the Gilben, don't shine the Gilben.